Hello, everyone, and hello, hockey world. It is, let's see.
Nothing changed.
Nothing changes, Dan.
I'm gonna say, it's Tuesday. Hello, hockey world. It's Tuesday, January 12th, which is my birthday, so I should know that. 2021.
Happy birthday, Eck. I'm Michael Agello.
Just imagine when Eck becomes 60, how difficult this intro will be.
But that ought to be explainable.
I'm Russ Cohen.
And I'm Dan Petru.
That is Dan Petru. And I am Eklund, and you're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in the comings and goings in the hockey world. And we are going to get at it today because we have lots of news. And but I think first we have to get into this Eastern Division because that division, my friends, is by far, I think, the most difficult division to pick of any. And it's been it's interesting when you read around, everyone says the same thing.
I'll dispute that because let's just say I think the best teams are in this division, but in this division of the 8 teams, you have 2 that I think are no doubt missers of the playoffs.
Nice.
Well, I think it's easier. I think it's easier to pick this division than the North because I think, like we discussed yesterday, I think the only team you can write off in the North is Ottawa, and not even they're not that bad.
I don't think you have definite missers in this division.
Yeah, I think it's for definite miss, but I think they're the only definite. I don't think the Sabres will make it, but you can make an argument where they could. But I don't think they'll make it.
All right. Dan, are there any teams that are definitely not making it in your mind?
I don't think the Devils will make it. And while the Sabres might be more competitive, I don't think they're close yet. So I think those are the 2 teams that are definitely not making the playoffs.
A voice of reason. There you go.
I do. I always think that every year, and I've said this before, there's this team that we all say won't make it that does. And
right. Like you can give me the blueprint on why the Sabres or the Devils could possibly catch fire in a short season, but I gotta go with the Devils. I just don't think are there yet. And until the Sabres do it, we've said this like 5 years in a row.
Yeah,
until they do it, I'm not there yet.
No, I don't disagree with that. I think the Sabres to me are the most intriguing teams that everyone says isn't going to make it because I think that they are the one that has the best shot of actually surprising people. They have gotten better over the years.
Yeah,
no, they're better than Ottawa.
Like Ottawa, New Jersey. Yes, they're better than that.
They're better than Ottawa.
I actually think there's a 3rd team in the East that won't make the playoffs, and I'll just throw it out there right now.
All right.
I don't think the Penguins are making the playoffs.
All right, I like that. I actually don't have the Penguins in the playoffs either. We're gonna.
Ultimately, I don't have them in either, but I can't say that they're definitely not going to make it.
I mean, the top 4 in this division is tough. Like, I don't think there's a definite, like in other divisions we've talked about, there's a team that wins the division pretty much. We've been pretty confident about that. You know, it's Colorado or Toronto or, but I don't think there's a definite team that wins this division. I think this could come down to any number of 5 teams that could win this. And so that means one of those 5 teams.
I'm pretty confident in my division winner this year.
All right, well, let's start from the bottom as we usually do. And I am going to say with all I've said that I'm going to have the Sabres in last place. Granted, I mean,
you are such a pain in the ass. You really are.
I know. Please, I mean, just you're a contradiction in terms.
In saying that, okay, I always like to do predictions of best case and worst case. Okay, so I'm throwing the worst case out there for the Sabres here, but there is a best case scenario where they battle for 4th or 5th and they're in this thing, and that's they've gotten better every year. They have shown. I mean, they always get hot. They're always hot early. It's a short season. There's certain things about the Sabres that I look at that I'm that make me scared to death to put them there.
Well,
but someone has to be there.
Well, okay, because I'm here in Buffalo and I've been following the Sabres and what they've done during the offseason, I have to say this. Their goaltending has not changed. It's Ullmark and Hutton, which I think is below average in the league. I think Ullmark is a good young goalie, but I don't think he's a number 1, and Hutton was horrific last year. So there is no solution there. Their defense is the same. Literally the same. Now, I don't think it's terrible because you've got Ristolainen, you've got Dahlin, you've got Montour. There's some talent there, but they struggled at times last year on the blue line. So I expect a really big upgrade defensively? No, I don't. Where they're going to have to make hay is at forward. And the big story right now in Buffalo is that their $9 million winger in Jeff Skinner is playing on the fourth line because he refuses to play defense. They're playing Taylor Hall with Jack Eichel and Tage Thompson on the number one line.
And
love Tage Thompson. I think he's a sleeper.
He is a sleeper. And that fact, you're right. And that fact, Mike, that he's playing on the fourth line makes me even more nervous about putting Buffalo there because that tells me that Kruger is a good freaking coach, which I already knew. And I know
that doesn't mean that Skinner's going to have a good season.
Doesn't mean that Skinner's going to have a good season, but it means that Kruger is going to hold these players accountable in the way that they have to. And it doesn't matter what your paycheck is. Show up once your paycheck gets you in the door, and you're in the door, and it doesn't matter.
It could also mean that
how many more wins is that going to give it back? 5?
Right. It could also mean that you have a $9 million forward sulking because he's not playing in the top 6, and they'll be pissed off.
But that does just forget about that. Honestly, if you've got a good coach, you can handle that. That's like, I mean, if someone's going to sit there and sulk because they're making $9 million, no, I mean, the pressure is on them because they're making $9 million. I get that, but no one's going to feel sorry for Jeff.
I'd like to have that kind of pressure.
Yeah, give it to me.
No one's going to feel sorry for that. Dan, are you with us on Buffalo in 8th?
I am not.
Okay, good.
I have them at 7. I think there is some upside there. I don't think they've addressed their goaltending. I don't think they've addressed their defense enough. I think their defense will be a little bit better with the projection, the improvement of some of their kids. So I think their defense will be better, and I think their coach will help that as well. Yeah. I just don't think they're there yet, and this is the group of death as far as I'm concerned with divisions. Yeah. I have the Devils at 8. I think everything went wrong last year. I think Hughes will be healthy, will be better. I think Heischer will be better. I think Subban will not be as bad as he was last year. I like Blackwood as a goalie. I really do. I just don't think they're there yet. And somebody has to come in last place in this division. I have the Devils there.
Yeah, I mean, look, their defense has improved. I think bringing in Murray helped, but they're still 8th. And if there was a 9th, they'd be 9th. And I do have Buffalo ahead of them. And there's just –
and that's okay, though. That's another top 5 pick was exactly what the Devils need.
I mean, end of the day, the Devils have now the worst goaltending in the division, even though we all like Blackwood. This division is a juggernaut for goaltending.
This is a goaltending division, no questions
about it. They're probably the worst only because their backup doesn't have NHL experience. I like Scott Wedgwood, but he doesn't have NHL experience. And now Eric Comrie, you never want to bring in an NHL game. I mean – I don't want to say he's as bad as Anton Forsberg because nobody is, but you get the drift.
I'm going to say this. Now, last year, if we were to go from we ended up ending in March, right? If we went from January 1st until we ended, this was the best team in the New York metro area.
It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. I mean,
it doesn't matter for the same reason that a decade ago the Leafs were the best team after February 1st. The attention was off. The pressure was off. It doesn't matter.
Hey, when we hit that pause last year, the worst team in the league was the New York Islanders, and they went to the conference finals.
Right, and that's granted. The Islanders. There are a couple teams that just the bubble was a brilliant thing for, and the Islanders are one of them. We talked about
right because they got healthy.
The Canucks. I mean, there were teams that really just completely and the Canadians that shined in the bubble. But this Devils team, Jack Hughes is way better than we saw. There's no question.
I agree.
I love Jack Hughes.
I think we all agree.
Yeah,
Heischer's not starting the season, and I don't think Jesper Bratt's even there right now.
And this is why I have them in 6th. Okay, I have the Devils in 6th. And as I have them there because I do agree with I actually had them in 4th or 5th until Crawford gets hurt. Okay,
well, who do you have in 7th?
I have the Washington Capitals in 7th.
Oh,
and here's where.
Let me explain that one.
Yes,
I would love to explain that one. Okay, I mean, and I know. Okay, and I know we've lived through Peter Laviolette goes to a place and they do really well the first year, and that's always how it works, right? The difference is the other places Laviolette went to were stacked with young people, young players, speedy players. Now he's going to a place that I don't think is going to be able to play and keep up with what he wants them to do. And this is not a fast team. This is not a quick team. This team has tons of skill, tons of experience, of course. Adding Chara doesn't make them quicker. Not having Lundqvist as a backup doesn't make them better. Well, they are going sideways. They were a team that, in the bubble looked completely outmatched and very disinterested.
Well, there's my area of concern. Is
Let me finish one thought.
Sorry.
And last year, I watched the Flyers, who I don't think were very good last year, beat up on the Capitals. And that to me was it was the first time I saw like these huge gaping holes in the Capitals. They really, I mean, the Flyers beat them 7-0 one game.
Yeah, the Capitals have made major improvements to that team.
What major improvements have they made?
On the blue line, they brought in Dylan.
Chara.
Dylan didn't help them much once he got there. He didn't do much.
Holtby is gone. Holtby was horrible.
Holtby is gone. That doesn't help you.
No, it does help him. He was bad, Eck.
No, but he's not bad. He's better than who's going to be playing with Samsonov.
Samsonov is 1,000 times more athletic than Braden Holtby will ever be.
Samsonov is in his early 20s. There is a reason maybe to be hesitant to say that, okay, can he handle the number one job? But he's a young goaltender who's shown very, very, a lot of promise last year as a backup. Now he steps into the number one role. Where I'm concerned is now that Lundqvist is gone, is Craig Anderson going to be the backup who they signed to a PTO? They haven't signed him to a contract yet, so there's a hole there. They probably will. I mean, I think that up front they're basically the same, with the exception of adding Connor Sheary, and all the improvements were on the blue line with Van Riemsdyk, with Chara, and with Schultz. Now,
look, this is the three players you just said there. Okay, I'm not saying anything against Chara. Obviously, he's a legend. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. But right now, he's not. Okay, right now he's not. Yeah. Trevor Van Riemsdyk is your classic 6'7"
bottom pairing defenseman.
Right? Justin Schultz is just horrific defensively, and at times, I mean, he might be able to play Peter Laviolette's system a little bit better, and I think that's why they got him. But at the same time, he's not as fast as he was either. And this team has, I mean, you never see the ending until it's upon you type team. And this team, I felt like last year, as the year went on, and people are picking them for first and second all over the place. And
listen, Toronto would be better. They have young players that will still be better too. Like John Carlson, people only look at him offensively. He blocks shots. He's physical.
He's a hell of a player. He's a great player.
Well, let's stop on John Carlson playing defense right there.
Right. Go look at the numbers.
Okay. Here we go. Carlson with help is good in his own end. Mm-hmm. Carlson as the main guy by himself gets exposed. The Islanders are not local Mike Green. They easily beat the Capitals last year, and Carlson was horrific. He couldn't handle any of the forwards on the Islanders, and they don't have Crosby now.
Maybe he was a bad bubble player. The whole Penguins team was bad.
Well, they're going to be in a bubble again this year because there's going to be no crowd, so you got to get used to it.
There's not a bubble this year. It's different.
But you would see the teams like the Islanders and the Flyers, who have some quicker, younger players. They made the Capitals look really, really mediocre.
Yeah, that was that year.
Here's the thing. I think I have them at 6. I think Samsonov is the big question mark, because if he's ready to be a number one goalie, he has talent out of the world. He can steal games. He can make them competitive. I still think they're going to score goals, but I think they're going to give up tons of opportunities. So that's where I think if he's ready, then they'll be okay. But if he's not, there's big question marks there. And we've seen good Anderson, bad Anderson, good Anderson, bad Anderson. He can steal games too, but they're going to be under so much pressure back there. And I just don't think there's anything out of their bottom 6 forwards as well too. That used to be a linchpin of their offense. Their third and fourth lines could really rail on people. I'm not quite seeing that like I used to. It's just a team that's getting older. And also, one thing we're not talking about is Ovechkin doesn't have a contract next year. That could become a distraction as well.
Oh, it won't. He's going to have.
Oh, no. I want to hear it. Guys,
he will have a contract. He's his own agent. It's not a problem.
Or he won't.
He should have been locked up already.
We don't know is I believe that.
I've read that book before.
Yeah,
I believe that Leonsis knows whether. I believe Leonsis right now knows whether Ovechkin's coming back next year.
Of course he knows.
I agree.
But I don't think that we know what that answer is to that question. And I think that this could very well be. And I think when I saw Lundqvist and Chara to me are signs that Ovechkin might not be back. Those are two guys. Those are two guys you go out and get when you're taking your last swing at the fences. Guys.
We'll see. I mean, but again, I still have Ovechkin winning the Richard Trophy with 37 goals. So
I wouldn't bet against him.
He could, but that doesn't mean. See, the thing with Lavi is when he came to Philly and when he came to Nashville, his 2 last stops, he he threw this like go offense thing out there, and he relied heavily on the defense to pick up the slack for that because in Philly it fell apart because the defense couldn't do it. In Nashville it worked really well because they had an unbelievable defense and they could do it. So yeah, to me that's
he'll play to his strengths, Zach. He doesn't do it the exact same way with exactly every team.
Now I have Washington at 5, and
I didn't do my 6, but
okay. Well, I know that's where I was going to go. Since we were talking
about Washington, you can talk about where they are because I mean, where do you have Washington rest? Or you don't have to tell us. You can.
I have Washington coming in 4th.
Okay.
We have a 6.
You guys are all lower on Washington than I thought you'd be because, like, when I go out and read the other polls, it's like the Capitals are.
Oh, but 4th is a playoff team. That's what I think they are.
Yeah, but I couldn't find them not being a playoff team. Like anywhere I went,
I have the Rangers at 6, and the only reason I have the Rangers at 6 is because.
Wow.
Yeah, I love their goaltending, and I think that it's going to be better. I mean, people may be right in that Shesterkin is going to be qualifying for the Calder, and if they are, then they're going to be then they're going to be challenging for a top 4 spot. I just don't like the defense when you're going to be playing Brendan Smith and Jack Johnson. I Trouba and D'Angelo and Lindgren and Fox are good, but if you give those two, Smith and Johnson, any playing time, I think your defense is weak. They're really good up front. But really young, so I think it's going to be another year before they're ready to challenge in that division. But I mean, I could be wrong, but I think they're on the come. I just don't think they're ready yet.
I'll say my 6 is the Penguins because they just did window dressing in the offseason. Now Jerry, I like, but I don't know if he can carry the load yet. He may need a little time for that.
Right,
and their blue line is still bad. Like it's not good, and so that's why I have them 6. I have the Rangers 5th because of what Mike said about the blue line is absolutely true. Mika Zibanejad just came out, even though he's back, and said, "Hey, I had COVID." And if anybody watched the NFL season, some of those players that had COVID didn't necessarily have their best years this year, even though they might be healthy.
Russ, there's guys in the MLB that are still recovering. Guys having brain issues, lung issues. Rudy Gobert it took 8 months for him to feel better.
Yeah, Eduardo Rodriguez has still got the cardiomyelitis.
Right. It's all kinds of things. So there's that.
So we don't know. You're right. We don't know that.
I think they're going to put Lafreniere maybe on the 3rd line to start. We'll see when he works his way up because he will. Maybe they'll put Kako with Panarin. I think that's smart to kind of get him going. But in the end, they don't have enough defense. They have good goaltending. They have scoring. Their defense will let them down.
We're at number 5 basically. Because number 6, I have the Devils at 6. So I have the Devils at 6, and I honestly want. I had said before that I thought that they were going to finish in the playoffs, but that honestly, like I said, I really like the Crawford signing for the kind of team they had and the kind of goalie he is. He's the kind of goalie that really does well when he's under barrage, Sure. But unfortunately, seems like the vertigo got the better of him. So I think that at the end of the day, now who they go out and get from here?
They claimed Eric Comrie. That's their backup.
They got Eric Comrie and Scott Wedgwood's the backup. That's it. That's
it. So that is really not good. Like at the end of the day, that's a troublesome spot for them. And I see it's a shame because I think the Devils are going to be one of the better offensive teams. They'll still put them in the top 10 offense in the NHL. Throw that out to you guys.
Top 10?
They'll be top 10 in scoring in the NHL. They will. No.
They don't have enough depth, Zach. They don't have enough depth.
Heishier's not even starting the year, I don't think.
That's true. And, granted, if he misses a ton of time, then this is a short season, so I could be wrong. But I still think that at the end of the day,
right now they're number. Well, depending on whether they play Hischier at center, right now their number 2 center is Travis Zajac.
That's not good.
That's not good.
No, back to you.
That's not good. No questions asked. All right, so moving to number 5, where
5 I have Washington.
I have the Pens at 5, and I feel like the Pens and Caps are kind of interchangeable, just 2 teams on the way down. But they could easily both still be playoff teams. I'm just not feeling either of them.
Yeah, this is where I put the Penguins too. This is it's a tough one to do because they do still, like people in the chat room brought up, and it's hard. It's like when you look at the Oilers, you look at, they've got Draisaitl and McDavid. They still have Crosby and Malkin, and that's for sure. You can't get around that, right?
Well, okay.
But their defense has just been woeful, and they are starting to. and really, like one of my friends and someone on Twitter put it out perfectly. It was just a fan who just, one of my friends who's a Penguins fan said that I'm right in this pick, and I trust him because he's one of those guys who watches them every time. But then also someone on Twitter just said, I don't want this to be the case, but last year the teams that we were supposed to beat all the time, it just wasn't that easy, and I think that's an honest
That's fair
from a Penguins fan.
Well, the one thing, and I have the Penguins at 4. I mean, I think their defense is challenged, but I don't think it's as challenged as some of the other teams in the division. I mean, Dumoulin is a solid defenseman. Pedersen is pretty good, and Marino they just signed to an extension.
I like Marino.
Yeah, the key is the key is Letang staying healthy. If Letang stays healthy, then they make the playoffs. Matheson is a boat anchor of a contract. I don't know why the hell they traded for him. I don't see any way he's a reclamation project. But I think there's enough there, and if Jari plays like he did last year, there's enough up front with Gensel and Crosby and Malkin for them to make the playoffs. But do I think they're going to thrive? No, because I think they're too old.
Right. I think the 4, 5, 6 teams for me are just borderline playoff teams.
Yes.
Where things go right, they will make the playoffs, but I just don't take them serious as cup contenders for those specific reasons, right?
Yeah.
I actually agree with you, Mike. What's going on?
Yeah, it's crazy.
The other thing I want to add, Ek, is while I have the Caps 4th, I just read that Connor McMichael will miss the first 3 or 4 games due to quarantine, and then they're working him in the lineup. If you got to see him at the World Juniors, he's fast. He's a center.
Yes.
Laviolette will utilize every little bit of his youth, and that's another reason why the Caps will make the playoffs.
No, I mean they could pull up some of these new kids and show me, and that's made me look like an idiot for picking 7th. But I've got to see those guys to actually show they can do it at the NHL level first.
That's fine. That's fair.
But it was because all I see right now is not that positive. It's just not that positive. And I'm not saying they're a bad team because I think they'd be a playoff team in the other 3 divisions. Like that's how good I think this
right.
is.
Right. That's a fair point.
I think that's fair.
Someone's got to be 7th, and I just see that and it's easy to put New Jersey there for sure, but I just think New Jersey's going to have a little bit more oomph in their game to push ahead a little bit more.
I just don't see it, but we agree to disagree.
Okay, so my 5th team is the Penguins that we talked about, and for all the reasons, and also I think that the Murray loss is a bigger loss than people realize. It's just you just don't give up.
That hurts them.
Matt Murray, and they're putting a heck of a lot into.
Not the way Matt Murray.
I know Jerry was better at times, but he's still like now that means you're at another goalie beyond Jerry, right? Who's their backup.
Well, you just worry about who Jerry's backup is, not that Murray is gone. That's
the thing is, they're not going to miss Murray if Murray played the way he did the last 2 years. They needed Murray to play
better than the backup they have now, Mike. That's
right. Casey DeSmith is a pure backup who's going to probably play about 12, 13 games, and we're
looking at a crazy NHL season, right? Where you have like one of these goals. If a team that only has one goalie, that goalie goes down.
Oh, if Tristan Jarry tears his groin, they will finish 8th in this. They could have finished.
If Samsonov goes down, think about it. To me, and I could say the same with Blackburn, obviously at this point too, obviously, right? But there's a lot there. But so my 4th place team is the Boston Bruins. And this is it's tough because the Bruins have obviously been the dominant forever. Although last year again they crumbled like a house of cards when they lost Tuukka Rask to the point where it was just ridiculous what they were like. The whole the blame that they were throwing on Rask was absurd to me. I mean, I granted
let's specify not the blame that Cam Neely did.
The blame that went on Rask for that. I mean, come on, you got to be able to play better than that without just because of Rask isn't in there. I mean,
he didn't get criticized by his teammates. His teammates backed him. It was the management of the team.
But everybody seems to say, "Oh, they'll be back and they'll be number 1 because Rask is back." That's there's other things that we saw there. There's other problems we saw there. They went after Pietrangelo really hard and didn't get him for a reason. They lost Uwe Krug. Torrey Krug, losing my mind. Torrey Krug. No relation. They lost Torrey Krug without really replacing him. I mean, and now Cam Neely let Chara go. Because he's like, we need to see what our young defense can do. Those are rebuilding words, and it was to me that when he said that, I'm like, okay, well, what are you guys? And now, of course, Marchand's hurt as well. That also plays into the, he's a huge factor for this team.
Well, Russ, this is the thing. I mean, I think losing Chara is big because Chara was still a leader there, but I like the quality youth that Boston has on the blue line. McAvoy, Grzelcyk, Carlo, Jeremy Lawson. They're
I
probably
like
going to
Lawson a lot.
They're probably going to bring in
Clifton's
probably going to bring in Vakanainen on the blue line. I think
Definitely bring back the Ninen, who's really steady as
The only
well.
one of the guys you mentioned is really a defenseman in the NHL right now.
what's
In
that?
my
No,
opinion.
that's not true. Vakanainen would have made the
I think
team.
Connor Clifton's net ready to be an everyday
Yeah,
defenseman.
sure. Clifton's
He
very
might
close.
be, but like really, I mean, McAvoy is the true.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
he's
but-
smart.
He's
Wait,
the proven NHL defenseman on that line.
when they were stacked on defense, Vakanainen had pretty much made the team, and then he got concussions.
Right.
He was good enough to be on a lot of teams.
And
So
Brandon Carlo is a big shutdown guy. I mean, he's
very
a solid
solid.
NHL defenseman.
All right, I'll give you that. So they've got two. We've got
I think.
two.
What about Grizzly?
Okay.
Grizzlick is your 6'7" defense. He's like in the Trevor
No,
Reeves.
he's not.
No, he's not.
I think Clifton's a good bottom pairing defenseman.
I would take
think they have
Mark
four defensemen.
Grizzlick over Eric Gustafson every day of the week.
Yeah,
as
yes.
a-
I think Grizzlick steps into the Torrey Krug role. I think he's already going to get power play
Yeah,
time.
he's not Corey Krug, but he can play the role.
Right, exactly. And I'm let Russ
Big
tell
role.
you, Eric
Krug was
Gustafson.
a lot on that team, and he wasn't
Eric
even paid for it.
Gustafson is a hack. He is a
I'm not talking
terrible
about Gustafson
defensive defenseman. We'll get
Oh,
to
we
the
will
players,
eventually.
but he's a hack.
We'll get to Gustafson, but we're not there yet.
the only
Yeah,
reason-
I have the Rangers at 4.
Rangers at 4. Okay.
I have the Rangers at 4. I think they're going to be very good, and you can make the case that they can win this division. You can also make the case they can miss the playoffs. That's how close this
Yeah, I
division
think
is.
that's fair.
True. 100%.
And I really like this team. I really think they're up and coming. I'm just not sure they're quite there yet. They kind of maybe remind me of the Flyers 2 years ago. They're
Mhm.
almost there. Look, they got a star goalie in the making. They have a great backup goalie. They have a couple good defensemen. I still think there's a weakness in the blue line. I don't think they're good enough down the middle yet. I think Tyler Johnson would have really helped them. I just don't think if you look 1 through 4 through their defensemen, their centers, they're not quite there yet after Zibanejad, and they don't get enough from their bottom 6.
Right.
But their top 6, oh my God.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're going to score a ton of goals. They're going to be super entertaining. I think they're a playoff team, but I just don't think they're ready yet to compete with the big boys.
And the reason everybody was
I
not
want to point out that Joe in the chat room just called you a delusional New York Rangers fan.
Yeah, Joe called me a original New York Rangers fan. Yeah. And also,
fan of New York Rangers fan?
wait, real quick. Randy said the Rangers are the best goaltending duo in the division. They don't have the best goaltending duo in their city. We'll get to that.
We'll get to that too, and I'm
Yeah,
with you
I
on that one.
actually
And
agree with
they're
that.
not even the second best goaltending duo in this
No, I actually agree with that. The only thing I'll add, even though I picked the Rangers 5th, is Buchnevich really looks great so far in the early going, so he might give him some of that bottom 6 scoring. Might.
He might be. They need it. They really need some off their third line.
now.
Yeah.
Okay, I had Boston. I had Boston at 3. And
That's
the
where I
reason-
have them too.
And the reason that I have him at 3 is until you prove to me that now Marchand is going to start the season. Pasternak is already skating, so he'll probably be back in 2 to 3 weeks. Until you prove to me that this team is dead, they're not dead. They need to prove to me that Bergeron is still one of the best forwards in hockey. Krejci, still is an effective second line center. Pasternak and Marchand, Coyle, DeBrusque, they're a solid team. They added Craig Smith. They're a solid team. And until they prove to me that they're over the hill or dead, this team will kick your ass. So that's why I'm picking them 3rd.
Yeah, I will say this. While Pasternak is out, Craig Smith is a good little plug to have to get some early goal scoring until he gets back. And Marchand's going to be there at the beginning now. That helps. I think this will be one of
Is
the
that
best
for
years.
sure true? Is that 100% sure that
I
Marchand?
didn't hear it. I don't know.
I heard he wasn't. That's what I heard.
No, I heard he was, but I don't
He's
know.
been skating for over a week.
I heard he was, but it'll be a game time thing. But at the end of the day, the difference with this team right now compared to some other teams is I'm pretty sure this is Rask's last year, at least with Boston and maybe the NHL, and I think he will go out with a bang. I really do. I think he has an axe to grind and something to prove, and when Rask plays like that, he's one of the best in the league.
Right.
I think he'll try to, and I actually think they have one of the better. I think I'm going to put they're one of the top 4 goaltending tandems too, because
They
Halak
are.
Halak is a strong.
Yeah, that's a great tandem. I mean,
Forget what happened last year in the bubble, just for a second with the goaltending. Halak, the reason they were so good last year is they had maybe the best tandem in the league. So that's when you realize that as long as Rask stays healthy and that's all there, they're still dangerous and they're still a playoff team to me. That's why I have them in 4th. But I have the Rangers in 3rd, and the Rangers to me, where would we? I really, really hated the fact, and I've said this many times, that they let Fast go. Like that to me was
that's going to hurt him on the penalty.
player they should have put more into him. There's other guys they could have let go above him. He really was, and he's a real sneaky thing for Carolina to get. Like Carolina, really, that's a huge little pick. And like I talked about,
you know what they could have done, Eck? The problem is because their defense is so weak, and they had to hold on to Smith and not bury him in the AHL and at least save some money. Fast is the guy that gets the short end because they couldn't afford to pay him.
And that's
we're not going to talk about like anything else, like as far as politics go.
No, but Quinn loves him. Like he would talk about him as being the best player last year.
And I'm not surprised with this pick, X, since you're the chairman of the Igor Shesterkin fan club.
Well, I do love Shesterkin. He was my favorite goalie in NHL last year, not this year, but last year. But I do think that I do think
he fell out of favor after one.
I don't even want to know what that means. It's your birthday. I'm going to let it go.
I do think he's fantastic. You're not going to be nice because of my birthday. Get the hell out of here. I know you. All right. So but Shesterkin, I love the way he plays. He's unique. He poke checks. I'm like, if you give me a goalie that poke checks, I'm happy. Like no one poke checks anymore. He poke checks.
No, he does poke check,
which is fantastic when he does it. Players these young kids are coming in like, why are you allowed to do that? Some of these guys have never seen a goalie poke check in their life.
Billy Smith poke check. He just did it with the wrong end of his stick in somebody's
across the back of your leg.
But it's nice to see now.
Well, Thomas Grice would use the poke check, especially on shootouts.
He does.
There's actually
a couple times.
I like Grice too. People have mocked me about that, but he poke checks. I mean, Tim Thomas was a poke check. Like there aren't that many guys that poke check in the last several years. Carter Hart does it very, very rarely, but once in a while. But anyway, so I'm Shesterkin, and I also think the fact that they could let Lundqvist go, was pretty impressive. Like in a way that shows the faith they have in.
There was 8 million reasons why they had to let Lundqvist go.
Sure.
They didn't want to, but they had to.
No, but I think that but last year when they could, he was on the bench. He was in the press box. That had nothing to do with money.
Not until the playoffs, and then he actually played okay in the playoffs.
Right, then he played, but there were times. So forget the money. They thought they saw him as their third goalie.
It had to do with money because they didn't have to sign. They had to sign Georgiev to off of his ELC. They had to sign him to a bigger contract. They couldn't afford to keep Lundqvist.
Yes, but he's still like. And what do you want to say? I don't think that last year they were thinking that by putting him up in the press box.
No, they were thinking that.
Okay, maybe they were. All right, but I also think that so let's pretend for a second that Montreal doesn't make the playoffs like Mike thought and get Lafreniere. That would have been better for them. And let's pretend that the Rangers didn't get Lafreniere for a second. Where would you put the Rangers? Would you put the Rangers basically in the same place?
Yeah, I would have them in the same place. I don't think Lafreniere is going to be the reason they make the playoffs or don't make the playoffs.
I agree with Russ.
All right, I think that's insane.
There's too many other things at play.
They're going to score a ton of goals. Their problems aren't their wingers.
I know, but any other team that adds a guy of this, what I've heard, at least from what I understand,
he's 18 years old.
But Crosby.
Good. Put all the pressure on him. All the pressure on him. Let's go.
No, I'm not putting pressure on him. The great where he landed is fantastic for him. He doesn't have to have right on the third line. This is good, but I'm saying that they added a serious player there.
Sure, they did.
Of course they did. Yes, I agree.
And where you picked them, to me, he's going to be good enough to move them from fourth to third.
He's not going to be a serious player in terms of impact, probably for another year or two.
But 50 points, I think, is reasonable.
Sure,
and I think he'll get that. But again, the center play isn't good. And when you get down to the third defenseman, it starts getting weak.
If he gets 50 points in 56 games, he is the difference between them finishing in fourth and third.
No, it's not. No.
Yeah, that's not a big. You're adding a point a game guy.
Heck, they could be.
If Keandre Miller's playing 22 minutes a night, that has more impact than anything Lafreniere can do.
Right. If they're playing Brendan Smith as a seventh defenseman or as a fourth line winger, and Jack Johnson's in and out of the lineup, and Keandre Miller is getting playing time, then they're better off. But their fortunes are not going to be determined by Lafreniere. They're not going to. It's going to be based on what Zibanejad does, based on what Panarin does. Lafreniere, if he does something good, it's a cherry on top of the sun.
All right, so where is he, Russ? Where is he? Is he better than? And I'm trying. You're the prospects guy. Is it because I've been told that he's not Crosby or McDavid, but he's not better than Hughes and like say, you know.
I think he could be equal to Hughes. He's not better than Matthews.
Better than Hersher. He's not. He's
better than Heischer. Yes.
Yeah. Is he in the Matthews? To me,
he's just below Matthews.
Just below Matthews.
But they're really different players. Like Matthews plays a lot more.
Let's give a win. Russ, is he Taylor Hall?
I think he could be as good or better than Taylor Hall.
That's who he kind of reminds me of, like a more physical Taylor Hall.
But that doesn't mean you got to remember, Austin Matthews scored 40 goals as a 19-year-old rookie.
Right.
And then missed the playoffs.
Right.
Right. Proving our point.
Right.
Well, or they lost in the first round.
They were a lot not as far along as the Rangers are now. Like that Leafs team he went to did finish legitimately in last place.
Listen, like Davey's asking who's Hughes, Jack Hughes. Don't just slough off Jack Hughes because of what you didn't.
Yeah.
Because he didn't live up to your expectations last year. It was partially him and partially the Devils, and partially he needed to get stronger. Like, you don't know when a guy's going to hit.
Who's. That's like one of my favorite Dr. Seuss books when I was a kid.
I think the Rangers will get more out of Lafreniere this year than they got out of Kako last year. But does that mean?
I agree. They will.
I agree.
But does that mean that that's going to be enough to make the playoffs? I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't think so because the defense isn't good enough. It's not.
Right. Granted. And I think
D'Angelo, even if he has another career year, still gives up too many goals on the ice.
Yeah.
And he's playing with a broken heart. So it might be hard for him to play.
I'm not even going there, but
but you can find his heart on Parlor. Oh, never mind.
No, you can't. Nope. All right, we're at number 3, right? Are we number 3?
We're number 3. So moving to number. Who do you have number 3?
I have the Flyers at number 3.
Okay.
And I know that's not the sexy pick. Everybody thinks they're going to win the division.
I'm amazed at how many people have the Flyers at number 1 or 2. Honestly,
I really like the Flyers, and I think they actually, they're a definite playoff team. I think they're one of the locks to make the playoffs. I think they're a lock to maybe make a win around. But I still need to see more from their younger players, their younger forwards, to see if they're a Stanley Cup contender. I think they're a very good team. I think Carter Hart might be the best goalie in the league. We know someone probably has a little affection towards him. I think their defense is good collectively. Maybe the bottom end is, but their top end is good. I expect Gostisbehere to he's still there. I think he's going to bounce back. I think this is a very good hockey team. And with a little development from the younger players, could be a serious cup contender.
I'd like to give my 2 and 1 because I got to leave in 5 minutes.
Go.
If I can. My 2 is the Flyers, and my 1 is the Islanders. And
don't pick them.
Listen, the reason the Flyers are at 2 is because of that top pairing. I still have to see what Braun can do for an entire game because he can't play those kinds of minutes, and they're going to have to push guys in different spots. I have zero faith in Shane Gostisbehere. It's better if they leave him out of the starting lineup, to be honest. And right now, he might still be unfit to play. I'm not sure, but he's on the roster. He made the team. I don't think having Gostisbehere will help them at all, even 1 iota, but I think their defense is still good enough without him. It's good. It's above average. It's not great yet.
Yeah.
Forwards are really good. I see a major improvement in Farabee. I could see him.
I do too.
Going close to a point a game this year because people forget he's got an elite shot. It's just that when he first was pushed in there, he had to survive. Then he came back into the playoffs, and that was like a second season for him, and he ramped it up. Now he's stronger as well, and I've seen a lot more confidence. Gustafsson's going to give up a lot of goals when he's on the ice. He gave up the first one in the scrimmage the other night on a lazy defensive play, and there's plenty of those coming. But you got to hope he outscores that. Not worried about the goalie tandem. It's a good goalie tandem. And then as far as the Islanders, they do have the best goalie tandem. I do, because at least Varlamov has taken his game back to mostly what it used to be. And the Trotz system has been good for him. And so all of that's been good. Sorokin, he's not going to be the number 1 right away. It might take him until 30 games into the season until they make that decision because clearly Trotz is going to favor Varlamov for a little while because that's his guy. That's been his guy for a long time. So that's okay. The Islanders will always struggle for scoring, but their defense is still good enough that they can win on the differential in the regular season. I do worry about the Islanders going into the playoffs. They have to make some sort of major offensive adjustment or they could have a problem. But again, Pulak's going to be better. Noah Dobson in the lineup now is going to be terrific. I am a huge Noah Dobson guy. So there's no reason for me to look at the Islanders and say they're not the best team in this division because it's not a sexy offense. but the team is really well-rounded, and they have the best coaching staff.
Russ, before you go, I have one thing I wanted to know if you agree with me or Dan on this, because Dan said he thinks it depends on the young players on the Flyers, the young scorers up, the young forwards up top. I think it's exactly the opposite. To me, I think it depends on getting really half decent years out of Giroux and Voracek, because I think the young guys will be fine.
I think Giroux and Voracek will have decent years. I don't have a lot of faith in JVR.
I'm not going to say JVR, but I'm going to say at least Giroux and Voracek to me. And also, Hayes, are we sure he's going to be what he was last year?
Yes, I already saw it in scrimmages.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay,
he is that guy for them, especially the way they're using him. The problem that
He's
have
the center the Rangers need. Sorry, Russ. He's the center the Rangers need.
I know he is. That's the
he
ironic part.
doesn't necessarily have after the Rangers. That
is the ironic part. The last part of it is I really don't like they put Travis Konecny in the middle on the power play. I get why you can't go with Nolan Patrick there because you don't want to have him be injured, but you don't want to put Konecny there either, even though he's great at deflections. I would have put JVR and try and get him to earn his money in the middle because that's the only place he could score anyhow is down low. But they're going to put Konecny there, and I could see Konecny getting injured early in the season just on some errant shot because, again, Konecny doesn't have a stop button. And so having him in the crease, he could get destroyed at times.
All right.
That's my word.
So
I have Philadelphia.
Russ, thank you very much. You got to get going. We really
I'm going to go. See you guys. See you then.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah. I have Philadelphia second.
Okay.
I have Boston third. I have Philadelphia second. I think Carter Hart is. I don't know about one of the best goalies in the league, but I think probably one of the best goalies in the division. I mean, he's probably top 5, top 6 in the league.
He might be the best goalie in the league, but he's at worst he's top. At worst he's top 5. At worst he's top 5.
Right?
Yeah, he's got to show that he can do
now,
that.
I personally think Provorov is the best defenseman in the division. And that's saying a lot because Carlson is in the division and Carlson is great, at least offensively. But my problem with the Flyers right now is, I think Gustafsson was a horrific free agent signing, especially in the wake of basically replacing Niskanen. What they're going to be doing is putting Braun in the Niskanen spot. Yeah, Sanheim and Myers, if they continue to mature as they did in the playoffs last year, that's fine. Haag is a bottom pairing guy, but Gustafsson, other than being a power play quarterback, is a liability on the blue line, and I do not understand what Chuck Fletcher is doing with that signing. I'm
with you. I don't think it makes any sense Gustafsson to go get Gustafsson when you have Gostisbehere.
But clearly Vigneault does not trust Gostisbehere, and I'm surprised Gostisbehere.
What I've heard from inside the Flyers world, there is you have a big difference there between what Fletcher thinks of Gostisbehere and what Vigneault thinks of Gostisbehere, and that's the issue. So, you have to just trade a guy if your coach isn't going to play him.
Right. Right, and what Vigneault believes matters because he's the one who's going to play or not play the guy. Now, I do
finish your point, Mike.
Okay, just quickly, I do think that the big key is whether Patrick and whether Lindblom can stay healthy and can contribute.
Yeah, that's huge.
I have enough confidence in the resume of Giroux and Voracek that they will at least contribute. But I think the sort of random element there is what do they get out of Lindblom coming back off of his cancer and Patrick off of the problems he had last year. If they both contribute well, then it's a three line deep lineup that's really tough to contend against.
And look, can you imagine if it just like a 56-game season, let's say they get 40 points combined out of those two. Sure. That would go a long way out of something basically you did not have last year. If you had an influx of 2 guys scoring double-digit goals in the short season, that would mean the world for Flyers. And that's actually something I wanted to touch on with the Islanders as well. I have the Islanders 2. I have the Bruins 1. And here's the thing. The Flyers, Islanders, and Bruins, I think they're all interchangeable. I think they'll be separated by 4 to 6 points. Any one of those 3 can go up and down. I hate picking my team to win, so I put the Islanders.
Hard to put your team at number 1.
The Islanders are still very good in goal. I think Sorokin will be an upgrade over Greiss. I think you could see him taking over the number 1 job at some point. All the talk in practice is the players already hate practicing against him. He went like 5 scrimmages without giving up a goal, and then he gave up 3 goals yesterday in scrimmage, and people were freaking out.
By the way, that is my favorite goalie in NHL right now. Elias Sorokin, and he's my favorite guy, and that is, and there's I've been talking to people up there. I've got good friends. I'm friends with Trotz from back in the Predator. I've heard some things that I just think that the Islanders have like a coup there on their hands that people don't realize yet. And I think that they have like, this is like going to be the most consequential goalie to enter the NHL since Dominik Hasek.
Like the fans are calling him the white whale because we waited 8 years for him. And it was like Moby Dick. We were always chasing him, and now he's here. So I think it's going to be great to see. I think the defense will be just as good. I think Green over Boychuk I think it's a wash. Green might be a little better upside because he can skate still. I think Dobson, as opposed to losing Taves, will be at worst a wash as well. But Dobson has some special skills there. So I really think you could see something from him. Up front, you're going to get a whole season of Pajot at center. Mm-hmm. I think they arguably have the best 4 centers in the division, and probably one of the collective best 4 centers in the league with Barzal, Nelson, Pajot, and Cizikas. I mean, you can go to battle with any 4 of those centers. The big question mark for them is, I think the Islanders are very good. If one of Wahlstrom or Bellows is ready to contribute, much like Patrick and Lindholm, if one of them contribute 20-something points, this team will win the division. If both of them are ready, this team could seriously compete for the Stanley Cup. They are about 40 goals away from that. Yeah. So I just couldn't put them above the Bruins based on the Bruins' resume and their history. But I really think the top 3 are very interchangeable.
Bruins have not played in this division before, and I think that's going to be an eye-opener for them.
That's going to be interesting for the Bruins too. I agree with that, Eck. I do.
Yeah, really. I mean, they have played in a division where points could be had out of Buffalo, points could be had out of Florida at times. Ottawa for sure. Montreal has been pretty weak.
Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. I mean, there's nothing. Throwing the Bruins in the Metro division is fascinating.
Not that it was massively big news or a big surprise, because I thought they were going to find a place to dump him before the season, but Leo Komarov was placed on waivers today, Dan, and $3 million this year, next year. To me, I don't think he's going to get claimed because nobody's going to claim that kind of money. But that means he's going to be on the taxi squad because I think he's still got something left. But
good guy to have on your taxi squad.
He's he's not what you need you need 20 goals on that third line from a winger. Right. But if there are injuries, he is a great depth player. If you need someone to fill in for an injury, I think and also playoff time. He is someone that can kill penalties and annoy the hell out of the other team's good players.
Yes.
This is a great point that Timothy makes here in the chat room. I don't think many people would think this. Because of how it's played out. If you're a real hockey fan, you know this. But to think that Samsonov is younger than Shesterkin and Sorokin, because it feels like Samsonov has been in the NHL a lot longer than those two guys.
No, anybody who knows. I mean, Shesterkin and Sorokin were in the KHL for 6 years. They're
making $5 million a year tax free. There's a reason for that.
25 and 24, or 26 and 25. Samsonov was drafted, played a couple years in the KHL, came over, played in the AHL. He served an apprenticeship as a backup. He's 22 years old and he's ready to start in the NHL. So it's
talked to somebody on the island, right? About because I said, okay, Sorokin, there's some pressure going in there. If he's gonna feel the pressure. There's, like you said, the mystery guy who's always been there. They've been talking about him forever. Very similar to what you have in Minnesota. With their forward coming over, just like these guys who've been around. And I said, "Is there pressure?" And they said, "You don't know pressure until you've been a goaltender in the KHL." And honestly, that's an interesting point, because these KHL owners are not exactly the nicest guys in the world if their team's not winning.
He played for Putin's team too,
right? So talk about, I don't think playing for the Islanders is going to throw him that much. I think he's going to be okay with that in that situation. He's probably going to be very happy. I do think one of the things here. And I agree with everything you guys were saying about the Flyers. I do think Gustafsson, Mike, I think you're overplaying what will eventually be the story on him this year. They should have they needed to go out and get somebody else, and they got him. They needed to go get a defenseman, and they got him. He wasn't the best pick, but I don't think he's going to be a real factor for them. I think at the end of the day, Robert Haig will play a lot more than he will. Gustafsson might get back in the lineup at some point. I think Gustafsson's going to be, a 25 game guy who might, at times, depending on how things play out. They have some other good young defensemen too. They are, He's really there just in case it all goes awry, I think.
Well, that's an awful expensive insurance policy, paying $3 million on it. I mean, he's a power play quarterback. He scored 60 points with the Blackhawks. That he can do. But 5-on-5, if you put him anywhere other than on the bottom pairing with somebody who can stay back and not make him a liability, that's the only way that he doesn't hurt you really badly. But because defensively, he's inept.
You have to go into the Flyers thinking though for a second now. The last we saw them in the bubble, they couldn't score a goal to save their lives against either the Canadiens or the Islanders. Yet in the regular season last year, the Flyers were 7th in the NHL in scoring, and they were 7th in defense.
Well, they needed a power play quarterback because they couldn't play Provorov as the power play quarterback and expect him to be the matchup guy 5-on-5 and play 26 minutes a night. They just simply can't do that. So, and there's nobody else other than Gostisbehere that was capable of playing a point on the power play. And we know Vigneault's not going to use him as a point guy in the power play.
Right.
So that's the reason. I just think 5-on-5, he's a disaster.
And I don't think you're going to see it. And now here's the difference of why I put the Islanders above the Flyers, pretty handily above the Flyers. But wasn't really a debate for me. Honestly, is behind the bench. Like I think Trotz is a way better coach than Vigneault, and I think that was proven out last year when they played each other in the playoffs. I think Trotz totally completely outcoached Vigneault in that series, and Vigneault didn't know what to do. And when you talk to people who old Rangers fans about Vigneault and old Vancouver Canucks fans about Vigneault, he made the same mistakes with the Flyers that got him occasionally kicked out of New York and Vancouver, in his inability to adjust on the fly and his unwillingness to go to young players in key situations. Just completely, and that is to me, there is the rub with the Flyers. That is what keeps the Flyers from being a definite playoff team to me. I think they're a playoff team, but I'm not convinced they're a playoff team. And they have the talent to be a playoff team, but they could also finish 1st or 6th in my mind. And that we got to see where I think Barry Trotz. Gosh, and then of course the signing. The signing of Barzal, was just one of these typical friggin' that was so Lou Lamoriello. It was crazy. That was just that deal is a perfect Lou Lamoriello deal, it makes makes Barzal feel good.
If it was a perfect Lou Lamoriello deal, it would have happened 2 months ago.
Mike. I'm not convinced it didn't happen 2 months ago. I'm not because Lou wasn't nervous about this. Like he was,
and neither was Barzal. If it was with intention, he wouldn't have been in Long Island already. And he was skating with like Seidenberg and Boychuk and.
Think of that. I'm not. That's the way Lou's always worked. I remember Rafalski, going to the day before the season and then telling me later he was signed 2 months ago. Yeah, but it wasn't officially announced until then. They have their ways of doing.
There's a difference between Tommy Albaline and Matthew Barzal. It's like Tommy Albaline is the 7th defenseman that you bring in when somebody gets hurt. Matthew Barzal is your best forward. Now, and I think the prototypical Lamoriello thing with this whole thing is that after all this, he still signs him he doesn't make him the top paid player. Barzal's making the same as Anders Lee.
Yeah, you're right. Right. Which, you know what? I'm going to throw this out there. Dan, you obviously know this team better than me. I'm not sure who's the more important player on that team.
No.
Barzal's the best player, but
yes,
the most important player on this team is Adam Pelech, and you saw that when he got hurt.
Yeah, no, that's true. But as far as forwards go,
I would put Nelson. I would put Barzal number 1. I would put Nelson ahead of Lee because the maturation and what Barry Trotz has done for Brock Nelson has turned him into a bit of an enigma, into a consistent. He was on pace for 60 points last year, and also a shot and great defensively. So
this answers my question, and this is perfectly stated by Richard Petrisky of what I'm saying here, and that is that Nate Thompson versus Barzal last year in the playoffs was a horrendous matchup. And you kept going back to it time and time again. And yesterday we had John Shannon on here who was talking about Nate Thompson and how they was such a great pickup that
but Nate Thompson's going to be a 4th line forward for Winnipeg. He's not meant to be a matchup guy against the number.
He's a good 4th line winger, but he shouldn't be playing a guy. I agree.
My kids not since the dying days of Derek Smith that my kids heard so many complaints from me about a player. And when I was watching Nate Thompson just lose face-offs after face-off, be outworked. I like Nate Thompson. He's a wonderful human being. He's a great guy. He does bring good things to a locker room. he just can't play anymore
Well,
in my mind. And the Flyers learned that they did, but they refused to admit it, and it was just ridiculous.
Dan, let me ask you this, because I haven't heard his name on the waiver wire, and I'm assuming that means he's injured. Is Andrew Ladd? Is he going on IR, LTIR?
He was waived and he cleared.
Okay. I
assume he'll be in the taxi squad.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's at least that clears $1 million of that 5.5. I mean, yeah. I'm surprised that this team hasn't bought him out yet. I really am.
It's buyout proof. They don't say they only save about $1 million if they buy him out. We can thank Art Snow for that. I think in a perfect world they try and get him to Seattle.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and they might be able to. I mean,
they might have to give up a good prospect to do it, but I think
it might cost them a Wallstrom or a Bellows to get.
It might. It legit might. You're right.
And I wouldn't be someone talked about. We were ripping Pajot last year for that signing when Lou made the trade, and
looks fine.
Pajot for all that money at the time. I thought. I mean, I don't know what you thought at the time, Dan, but I thought it was pretty crazy to go that much money with him.
I wanted Pajot for about 4 years, and I just thought he would fit in perfectly. And I look, I've been wrong before, but I was right on that one. He just looks like he's been around there for 10 years. He's everything that they were missing.
No, he is. He really, and in the playoffs, he was just money, and he can play up and down the lineup.
Yep.
He's a perfect Lamoriello guy again. It's just so Lou obviously saw that too, and that's why he put the money into him, because he'll send money on guys he knows that are going to give him that much flexibility. And I think that's another thing I'll say, that I think Lou and Trotz are way more on the same page than Fletcher and Vigneault are in Philly. So I think that those differences to me are going to be big.
Yeah, Lou and Trotz are way more on the same page than Lou and Babcock were, because I haven't seen any Frankie Corrado situations in New York, Dan, where the general manager picks somebody up off of waivers and out of spite the coach says, "I'm never playing this guy."
Right. NBC. Right. Yeah, I don't think you're not going to see that.
Isn't the NBC commentator Mike Babcock I read today?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we got rid of Milbury and we replaced him with Babcock. I guess.
Can we finish the show on that? Because I'm all in favor. I bow to the decision making of NBC to not bring back Mike Milbury, because Mike Milbury, anybody who's seen him, he's the champion of the politically incorrect. He never gave me anything insightful when it came to commentary during a game. He didn't want to be in the bubble last year, and he acted like an ass, and he doesn't deserve to come back. But for the love of God, I mean, I know he's won gold medals. I know he's won Stanley Cups. But Mike Babcock, yes.
Wait.
That's it.
Don't let Nicholas Lidstrom fool you into thinking that Mike Babcock is a great coach.
Yeah, very nicely said. And
real quick, because I do have to go. If you guys could check out my show Wednesday night, Advanced Shouting on YouTube. We're gonna have that. We're gonna have that on one of these weeks. We have Russ on all the time, and I promise we will never have Mike on.
There you go. Thanks, Dan.
Hey, come on! You want to have to talk about the Super Bowl champion Buffalo Bills? Come on!
I would love to come on. That would be great, and definitely
we'll definitely have you on.
It's called Advanced Shouting on YouTube.
Advanced Shouting on YouTube every Wednesday night. Myself, Noel Fogelman, and actor Michael Vartan.
Very nice, very nice. Absolutely, we'd love to see it. Thanks so much.
I will never have great. Thanks, Dan. I really appreciate that.
Fantastic seeing
you. That's a soft sell. It's just I can't guarantee that. We might.
Okay. Fantastic seeing you. Really, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, guys. I'll come on anytime you guys need me. Just text me.
Fantastic, wonderful.
Thanks, boys.
Take care now.
Happy birthday.
Thanks, man. Me and Claude Giroux are born on today. I share a birthday with Claude Giroux. I'm exactly 20 years older than him. It's pretty funny. Okay. So anyway, let's talk about Babcock for a second too. I want to finish that thought, because like what you said, I couldn't agree with more, Mike. They went from the most politically incorrect to one of the most politically correct people that you can find too.
Yeah, but
Babcock tends to be very politically correct.
But Babcock is not. See, this is the thing. Babcock will not say a thing interesting.
Right. No, he has no real opinion on stuff. Or at least he doesn't.
He does. He just won't say it.
Maybe he will. Now, I mean, we have never seen him in this role. Maybe he will, because maybe we'll get to see a different side of him.
I mean, I think we got a clue of what managers or coaches do as managers or coaches, and then in media with what Brian Burke is the same guy. He was opinionated as a GM. He's opinionated as a commentator. I can't imagine that all of a sudden Mike Babcock is going to be Don Cherry or something, really exciting and groundbreaking. He's just like, well, I mean, it's just not going to be that great. Really, I don't get it. I think they bought a resume. They didn't buy a commentator.
He's going to agree with you too much. He's going to be like, yeah, that's true. I agree. I can see that. I can see your point there. That's what he, if he is the same as he is as a coach, but I think that is him. I don't think that's necessarily an act. I think that's the way he.
Right. And if that's the case, then it's a bad hire because it's not going to be appointment television to turn on and watch the first period with Mike Babcock and Patrick Sharp. We'll be more interested in what Patrick Sharp is wearing than what Mike Babcock is saying.
My wife will watch any intermission with Patrick Sharp on it, she told me.
There you go. Well, that's your problem.
Yeah, it's my problem. I'm not afraid of him. I mean, look at me. All right. So on that note,
yes.
Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. Tomorrow is game day.